Hi, my name is Carl Kresge, and our Mark devotional today is from chapter 13. If you've read this chapter recently, you probably have lots of questions. One commentary I read called it one of the most perplexing chapters in the entire Bible to understand. So it probably won't surprise you when I tell you that I'm not going to try to answer all your questions in the next 5 minutes. But what I would like to do is just a quick overview, paragraph by paragraph, of this chapter, and then highlight 3 key lessons for us today. Every one of us, to one degree or another, want to know what's going to happen in our future. It's built into our DNA. When is the end of the world going to come, and what will it be like? Well, Jesus' disciples were no different. So let's look at the paragraphs real briefly. First thing that happens is Jesus tells his disciples that the magnificent temple is going to be leveled. And later, when 4 disciples were alone with Jesus, they couldn't help but ask him 2 questions. When is that going to happen, and how will we know when it's going to happen? When we hear those questions, our curiosity about the future kicks in, and we find ourselves saying, yes, that's a great question. I can't wait to hear how Jesus is going to answer it. But Jesus' answer isn't what we'd hoped for. He does answer those 2 questions, sort of, but not in a way to satisfy our urge to know the details. Well, let's see what he says. First, he says, watch out for false messiahs and expect difficult times ahead. Next, Jesus gives them a foreshadowing of what is soon going to happen to them in the book of Acts. In Acts 1:8, Jesus tells these same disciples that they are going to be his witnesses to the ends of the earth. And here in this chapter, Jesus informs them that there is going to be persecution in that process of witnessing to the nations. The longest paragraph of this chapter talks about the horrors of the destruction of Jerusalem and the Great Tribulation. The next paragraph tells us that after the tribulation, there's going to be chaos in the heavens, and then Jesus is going to return. In this paragraph, Jesus uses the fig tree to illustrate the fact that certain events will signify that the end is very near. And then, in this final paragraph, Jesus tells his followers not to try to predict when Jesus will return, but to stay awake while they are waiting for him. The most important part of Jesus' answer is not predicting the future or giving a precise timeline about what is going to happen and when it's going to happen. Jesus' main point in this message is about discipleship. He is exhorting his followers about how he wants them to live in the present time, during this time between his first coming and his second coming. There are at least 3 important lessons from this chapter for you and me as followers of Jesus. First of all, expect trouble and difficult times. Jesus says, don't be alarmed when you see natural disasters and international conflicts and persecution for your faith. Between now and the end, in this period of time that we are living in, expect those things. We live in a broken world. We are broken people. Sin permeates everything. How clear that is in this year of 2020. Secondly, be on your guard. Don't be misled. Watch out for deception. Don't be fooled by people claiming to be the Messiah. And number 3, while following Jesus, watch for his return. Verse 26 is the most important verse in the chapter. Jesus is coming back. He doesn't tell us when. As a matter of fact, he tells us we can't know. But he does tell us how to live while we are longing for his return. Look at all of the exhortations Jesus gives us in this last paragraph. Be on guard, be alert, keep watch. Don't be found sleeping when Jesus returns. What does it mean to stay awake or to keep watch or to be on guard? Well, a couple of practical examples would be renewing your mind daily with the word, as Romans 12 tells us, not allowing spiritual apathy to make you lose sight of Jesus' return, being diligent in prayer, resisting the distractions of the world. Peter was one of these 4 disciples listening to these words of Jesus, and he later wrote, be self-controlled and alert. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith because you know that your brothers throughout the world are undergoing the same kind of sufferings. The main theme of this chapter is summed up well by Paul in 1 Thessalonians 1, 9-10. Speaking of the Thessalonians, he says, they tell how you turn to God from idols to do two things, to serve the living and true God, and to wait for his Son from heaven, whom he raised from the dead, Jesus, who rescues us from the coming wrath. So Jesus doesn't give us a precise timeline about what is going to happen or when it's going to happen. As a matter of fact, he tells us we can't know when he is going to return. Instead, his main point is to tell us how to live between his first coming and his second coming. One commentary puts it this way: this preview of the future ought not lure us to calculate when Christ will return, nor to fear what will happen, but to know that he will come to claim his own. His coming is his promise, and the gathering of believers to him is our hope. So as you follow Jesus, serve the living and true God. And as you serve, keep one eye on the sky. Don't lose your longing for the return of our Jesus. Maranatha, even so, come quickly, Lord Jesus.